It was cold outside, but inside the Town Hall auditorium on Monday, January 15th, it was electric. Hello, I'm James Milan.
And I'm Paul Werlin. So glad you could join us. Roughly 200 people packed the Town Hall auditorium on Monday, January 15th to celebrate the birthday of civil rights leader Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. This was the 36th annual MLK celebration, which this year happened to fall on Dr. King's true birthday. The keynote speaker was Reverend Rahsaan Hall, President and CEO of the Urban League of Massachusetts.
Town leaders, dignitaries, and residents alike paused to reflect on their own actions and celebrate a champion not just for the cause of civil rights, but of all rights.
I am happy to join with you today in what will go down in history as the greatest demonstration for freedom in the history of our nation.
I think we all could work better to come together as a community to try to find the ties that bind us all together, especially as folks have different political beliefs that they may be exercising this year, it being an election year, but also in a fractured time in the world. So I think events like this one really bring everyone together for a common purpose, and that's King's legacy.
When we look at the history of racism and discrimination in this country, to deny its existence only perpetuates some of the things that we're seeing now. There will always be work to do, and there are good people who are committed to bringing about that change. But until there's an honest conversation about the true history of this nation and some of the injustices and what this nation's wealth and power was built upon, what and who this nation's wealth was built upon, we'll probably continue to have these cycles.
More than 60 years have now passed since Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s I Have a Dream speech on the steps of the Lincoln Memorial in Washington, D.C., when Dr. King said those immortal words, "I look to a day when people will not be judged by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character." All these years later, conflicting interpretations of Dr. King's words in this and other King speeches are fueling a rhetorical war over the merits of affirmative action and the efforts of diversity, equity, and inclusion.
Well, when you look at the gross disparities along racial lines in educational attainment, wealth, employment statistics, incarceration rates, it's hard to say that it was a long time. Yeah, a long time ago. Yes, there isn't the virulent racism that people are calling you names, but there are still systemic impediments that exist that are generated by a deep history of racial bias and injustice.
But here in the town of Arlington, I think what we've been singularly focused, at least myself, working with our DEI Division Director, Jill Harvey, on making sure that that commitment to DE&I, that commitment to diversity and inclusion in the town of Arlington remains one that is strong. And I believe programs like this one, programs that we help organize through the Arlington Human Rights Commission and others, are really upholding that.
So tonight we come together as a beloved community to recognize him and all of the work that he did for so many years in this country. So it's a great night for us to come together.
Getting into the mind of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., what do you think he'd say looking around today?
I think that he would say many of the things that he has said in the past, that America needs to be honest about its history and who it has been and its treatment of the most marginalized among our community. I think he would also look at more liberatory and equitable forms of government and finance. He was talking about critiques of capitalism. He was espousing the ideologies of democratic socialism. I think Dr. King, if he were alive today as an advocate, assuming things are linear, that he would be very unpopular today as he was in the 60s when he was killed.
I have a dream that one day this nation will rise up and live out the true meaning of its creed. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal. We will be able to speed up that day when all of God's children, black men and white men, Jews and Gentiles, Protestants and Catholics, will be able to join hands and sing in the words of the old Negro spiritual, free at last, free at last. Thank God Almighty, we are free at last.
Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. would have been 95 years old this month. ACMi was proud to carry this event live. If you were unable to attend Monday night, you can see the rebroadcast on our government or public channels, or just search for it on our website, acmi.tv.